What is up, everybody? So my name is Jacob, and today I'm going to be talking about the 5 most common mistakes that beginners make with their CO2 laser. And honestly, even if you're a seasoned laser engraver, you might even get some information that might help you out in this video. So check it out. Let's start off with number 1. So the first thing that I want to talk about is focus. And yes, focus. Now, so your machine, if it's not in focus, it could create so many problems. And I don't want to say, oh, follow what I do with my OMTech 60 watt, because you may have a different machine. But each machine should come with either a piece of acrylic or maybe like a metal tab or something that helps you get your machine in focus for the material that you're engraving. And so a prime example of something that's not in focus, what it's going to do, potentially run your material, burn all the way through it. And you don't want to do that because material is expensive. So definitely check your manufacturer specifications for keeping your machine in focus, especially if you're doing autofocus. And then here's my thing. Once you know the rules, then you can break them. So for instance, you may dial in your focus and realize that if I'm slightly out of focus, I get a better engrave, or maybe the opposite. So definitely play around with that, but know the basics of your machine and how to keep it in focus. Okay, so the next thing, number 2, is going to be understanding your speeds and power. And honestly, if you don't, you could create a whole big mess by either one, running your material, again, kind of like what I did with the leatherette here. The other thing is, it takes just a second to create a flame and you're crying. You're crying. It doesn't take much for these machines to catch on fire. That's why you always want to pay attention to your machine, especially if you're trying a new material that you've never cut before. So here's my suggestion. I have yet to see a machine that does not come with some type of recommendation for settings. And here you have acrylic, MDF, plywood, rubber, leather, paper, cloth. This gives you at least a guideline to try first and then adjust accordingly depending on maybe you have a slightly thicker wood or a different color may act different. But either way, you want to have at least a baseline of what your power and settings should be. The other thing that you want to do is create a test card. You can see here, I made a test file for a slate coaster. And you see there on the bottom, completely blew it out. No good whatsoever. But that top portion is good. And I have plenty of options to choose from so that I know going forward, all I have to do is look at my test card and then I can golden. I just enter those settings in and don't have to worry about it. And my suggestion is you do a test card for everything. You can do one for your leather, for your acrylic, for 3mm basswood, 5mm, all across the board. Do a test card for your engraving, for your cutting, maybe a score line across the board. That way, all you have to do is go through your test cards, pick what works best. Even for tumblers, do a test tumbler with a test card engraved on it. It'll save you so much headache from either running material or causing a bigger issue like a fire. And number 3 is going to be proper ventilation. And I know that's boring, kind of like the safety stuff, but guys, it doesn't matter if you're doing wood, if you're doing leather, acrylic, if it's something that you know can be engraved or cut on the CO2 laser, vent it out properly. Now here, I don't have a hole cut in the side of my house. Even though I own my house, I just don't want to cut a hole in the side of my house because maybe one day I'm gonna have this laser on the other side. I get bored like that. So for right now, I just open up the garage, vent it out. I have a hose that goes underneath the garage and I vent it out that way. You might want more of a system where it's hard piped and it goes out the roof, I don't know, but make sure you're venting your machine out properly, because you really don't know if you're engraving or cutting on plywood that has a certain type of glue that emits any type of toxins, or if you're doing a test cut on something. You just want to make sure that it's properly ventilated prior to doing any type of cutting, any type of engraving, just to keep yourself safe and your loved ones and anybody else around your laser safe as well. So vent it out. If you're doing a long stretch, make sure you look at like an inline exhaust fan to even push it out a little bit faster, or over just a long stretch. Definitely take a look at what CFMs are going to be best for what you're running. So vent your machine. Okay, and number 4 is using the right material. And I cannot stress this enough. 1, be careful with plastics. Plastics are your biggest enemy when it comes to CO2 lasers and the toxins that it emits when cutting. So definitely stay away from plastics that should not be cut on a CO2 laser. So definitely check with your manufacturer of the laser to make sure what plastics you can and can't. I see all the time people wanting to cut on vinyl records. They see all these vinyl record clocks and they're like, yeah, that's cool, I want to do vinyl record clocks. And then they're in the hospital because they breathed in all these toxins that are extremely dangerous. So be careful, guys, and know what types of material you can and cannot engrave and cut. Same way with leather. You have to be careful about where you purchase your leather. I get all my leatherette from Lone Star Adhesives, or Tandy Leather if you're getting actual leather. There's Rocky Mountain Leather that I've gotten leather from. Like, these are places that I know are going to be safe for my laser. You got to be careful, guys. Even wood, you want to know what's sprayed on it, if it has a clear coat on it. Be safe, guys. You don't want to breathe in these chemicals. They're bad for you. You may not see the effects right off the bat, but long term, it's going to cause problems. So definitely think about what you're engraving or cutting. The other thing is, if you have something that might have a coating on it, as soon as that laser hits it, if it ignites it, it's just going to be more problems than you want to deal with. It could damage your laser, it could damage your shop, but way before you even know what happens. So definitely check the material that you're engraving and cutting. Be safe out there. Okay, and number 5, maybe the one that we just tend to ignore and it comes to bite us in the rear, is going to be maintenance. You got to do maintenance. You have to do maintenance on your machine. Clean your mirrors, clean your lenses, because here's the thing, when debris and everything sticks to those mirrors and possibly falls on your lens, it can create so much debris that it creates heat. And what happens is you could actually crack your lens. I see it all the time on Facebook groups, on YouTube, and the other thing is, along with maintenance, have spare parts. Have spare parts like the mirrors and a spare lens, because if you're doing this for a business or a side hustle, then you want to have those parts so that you're not down anytime and you have to tell customers, I'm sorry, I can't meet that deadline, or I'm sorry, I can't take on that job because my machine is down. So do the proper maintenance. Actually, I'm due for a good cleaning. You can see here, I've been cutting acrylic nonstop for weeks now for the holidays. And so, yes, I'm due for a cleaning. Depending on how much you use your machine, you may do it, once a week, twice a week. I mean, you got to gauge it depending on how much you use your machine, but don't skip on the maintenance, guys. I mean, it's so important that you keep your machine going. I mean, you invested thousands and thousands of dollars. Why not keep it, going and keep it clean, keep it lubricated, whatever that manufacturer recommends, that's what I would check. So I hope you got some value out of this on 5 of the most common mistakes beginners make. And honestly, it's some of the things that I make. And I got one more kind of honorable mention, is your air assist. So if you have an external air assist, one thing that even I do is I forget to actually turn it on or hook up the hose or whatever, but make sure you turn your air assist on and don't create flames you're not trying to create. So guys, again, thank you for watching. I hope you got value out of this. If you did, smash that like button. Also subscribe. I got more videos coming on both the X-Tool and the Ohm Tech. So guys, we'll see y'all in the next video. I hope y'all have a good one and be safe out there.